Fair, accurate, to the point. The 5:30 news starts now on Montana's news station.
A new fire burning near Lolo Pass erupted this afternoon with a team of about 20 firefighters and 12 smoke jumpers fighting it. It's about 10 acres in size right now and located some 3 miles northeast of Lolo Pass. A lookout spotted that fire around 2:30 this afternoon. It's burning in rugged terrain. An engine from Missoula is assisting. We have a reporter on the way. We will have more information coming up tonight at 10 o'clock. Well, fire officials say the Dominic Point fire near Hamilton grew somewhere to between 700 to 1,000 acres. Now, these pictures came to us from some of our viewers last night when the fire was just 100 acres. The fire quickly grew since then. Fire officials sent in 6 engines and 3 20-person crews to fight it. They also closed roads and trails near the fire in case firefighters need to evacuate. We begin with a landmark event, the breaching of Milltown Dam, a milestone that merged 2 rivers into one for the first time in a century.
For the first time in 100 years, let her run!
Have you ever taken a cue from the governor before?
No.
Randy Guthrie uses her excavator to dig out a new chapter in Montana environmental history.
We just started it slowly, taking that plug out and let the water start doing the rest. That
water trickles over the temporary berm. At 12:05 p.m. Friday, March 28, 2008, history is made. With eyes in the sky and hundreds more on a bluff high across the way, the trickle turns into a current and eventually a roar. The century-old Milltown Dam is breached, allowing the Blackfoot River above and the Clark Fork River below to freely flow together for the first time since 1908.
There's a lot of satisfaction when you work for something on a decade to see it move forward.
It didn't really dawn on me until I got up this morning that, this was really going to happen. We're really going to do this river. Personally, in my professional career, you don't get to do many of these.
River levels will rise downstream, but only temporarily, up to 4 feet behind the dam and up to 1.5 feet in downtown Missoula. But the biggest and most drastic change may be what lies beneath.
The effects of removing the dam, they're so far-reaching. And this is really, one of the best ways toward ecosystem restoration because of the breadth of the impacts and the breadth of the effects. It doesn't just affect bull trout, it doesn't just affect aquatic insects, but everything that relies on a healthy, functioning natural river ecosystem.
With each passing minute, the new channel grows, churning up old notched logs that once made up the original dam. The river recorrects and heals itself from a century of man-made diversion, and does so just as the breaching plan intended.
It takes a lot of work to make it look so easy, because it really has come off just as we planned. It's quite a day in history.
As wolves spread across the Montana landscape, ranchers find themselves looking over their shoulder to protect their animals and their livelihood. Last year alone, there were at least 367 confirmed wolf kills of livestock, and there are at least 6 so far this year. But for one longtime cattleman near Drummond, the cost of wolves runs much deeper than an occasional cow carcass. It's auction day at Ron Skinner's ranch in Hall, where fellow ranchers bought 174 of his cattle, but it's the money that got away that really hurts.
We've had a severe weight loss on the calves that come out of the wolf areas compared to the areas where we have cattle that there are no wolves.
Those heifer calves were an average of 97 pounds lighter than the others, and with the going rate of beef at 93 cents a pound, that's a loss of $90.21 per animal. Multiply that times 150 of them, and that's a total loss of $13,531. A more visually disturbing loss is wolf depredation.
I'm a purebred breeder. This was an embryo transplant heifer. She was worth a lot of money. We have no idea what she would have produced in her lifetime, but the compensation is not even close.
That's a wolf track right there.
On a nearby mountain, we come across a still warm elk carcass, tangible evidence of perhaps Skinner's greatest problem.
The environmental damages and range management damages is worse than depredation.
Skinner leases this land to graze his cattle, but he's not getting anywhere near his money's worth from it because wolves continually push the cattle off the grassy slopes away from the feed and back into overgrazed riparian areas below. And that forced him to buy 200 extra tons of hay this year. Skinner says there are many wolf-related effects on ranchers, like stress, which can lead to lower pregnancy rates, and young cattle that don't grade as high, extra manpower to monitor wolf activity, injury to livestock, damage to fences, and danger to humans, like when wolves showed up in his corrals right next to his house, driving the black bulls through the fence onto the highway at night.
The first thing I did when I come out here was got out on a road with a flasher so somebody didn't get killed. And it will eventually happen.
Despite the constant threat of wolves, Skinner carries on as a third-generation Montana rancher with a wary eye on the future.
The real question is, do you want ranchers to produce food for you? If we go through the economical pressures of wolves, some ranchers are not going to survive.
If you've ever visited the Melita Island Boy Scout camp on Flathead Lake, chances are you got there thanks to one of two pieces of living, floating history. Mark Holyoak takes us for a ride in tonight's Page 8 report.
This is no ordinary boat.
Please keep all of your hands and arms inside the boat.
30 feet in length and able to haul at least 8,000 pounds of scouts, parents, and scouting gear, it's also an all-American sight.
We put the flags out. Makes it look pretty impressive coming across the lake.
But this boat, one of a two-vessel fleet named Ark 1 and Ark 2, has a red, white, and blue history that dates back decades.
The tag was stamped December 1944, built in Portland, Oregon, and it's a floating bridge pontoon half, designation M4.
That's right. The Melita Arks once served as pontoon boats and did so in Europe during World War II. Among the most famous uses of pontoon boats in the war was in March of 1945, when Allied troops captured the bridge at Remagen, the last standing bridge across the Rhine. 10 days later, it collapsed, so American troops built a series of pontoon bridges, allowing soldiers to pour into Germany, eventually forcing the Nazis to surrender. Nobody knows the exact history of Melita's boats, but some say they were also part of logging operations on Flathead Lake in the 1950s. The man who designed and built them spent somewhere around 1,000 hours of his own time doing so.
There's no plans for it. You just have to work it out on paper and in your mind. Nobody has ever drawn a design for it, so you just go with what common sense makes sense.
He built Ark 1 out of a 1987 Bayliner with a 200 horsepower V8 engine.
It was a big leap of faith on the first one. This is the 7th season and it still works exceedingly well.
The much improved and redesigned 6-cylinder Ark 2 just hit the water this year. When Cisney turned over his creations to scouts, well, let's just say it wasn't easy.
I had nightmares the first 2-3 nights. The wife said I woke up in the middle of the night several times talking about them calling and saying it was sinking.
That won't happen because of all the flotation foam he put under the decking.
Really?
As Cisney developed and built the Arks into the successful hauling vessels they are today, scouting helped develop him, a longtime Cub and Scoutmaster, into the man he is.
I like to think that it hopefully shaped who I am and what I am now.
Okay, you're away!
And thanks to Cisney's hard work and ingenuity, Boy Scouts can have confidence the historic and symbolic fleet that once helped soldiers in their cause of freedom will safely transport them and their gear to camp.
It's pretty synonymous with Scouts. It's kind of an image of Melita Island.
Don recently relinquished his post as Scoutmaster of Ronan Troop 40, but remains very much involved in scouting, still serving as Troop Treasurer, Popcorn Coordinator, and deeply appreciated by all as the man who designed and created the Arks of Melita.